I was accused of poisoning my son and served 4 years in prison. My husband preferred to believe his first love's words rather than my explanations. He said, "Vivian has a simple personality, how could she deceive me? On the contrary, you are full of schemes. Out of jealousy, you could even harm the child. Vivian is more like a biological mother than you." Over those 4 years, I was humiliated and tortured beyond recognition by the prison's dominant inmates. My hands, which had saved countless lives, could no longer be lifted. In the end, he knelt before me, begging me to save the child of him and his first love. I removed my gloves, revealing my ruined hands. He completely lost his mind. The moment the iron gate opened, I felt as if I were in another world. Through the glass door, I saw a woman resembling a skeleton, aged nearly 10 years. Her hands were riddled with bloody holes, whereas 4 years ago, my hands were as smooth as a newborn's. Countless times, I had raced against death with these hands, saving numerous children's lives. During these 4 years, I had to wash clothes and give massages to the prison's dominant inmates every day. At night, I also had to perform shows for their amusement. Ruby smiled playfully, straddling me and riding me like a dog. I would not resist, silently crawling on the ground. Resistance would only lead to more brutal beatings. You harmed your own biological child? Are you even human? Since you're not human, we'll teach you how to be one properly. They mocked me freely, extinguishing cigarette butts on my hands. They even defecated on me, finding greater joy in my increasing misery. In prison, my crime was the most despised. They believed one could commit murder or arson, but never harm one's own child. However, I truly did not do it. Ethan was the apple of my eye, how could I possibly harm him? No one believed my words, including my husband of 8 years, Marcus, who, clutching so-called evidence, sent me to prison. Last month, after I had endured 4 years of torment, he finally deigned to visit me. Casually, he said, "You know you were wrong, right? I've signed the forgiveness letter, you'll be out soon." His gaze turned vicious. "Ethan is very close to Vivian now. If you dare cause trouble again, I'll send you back in for another 10 years. He hurriedly hung up and left, his eyes filled with disgust toward me. I curled up on the stool, trembling in fear all over. 10 years? To live this life again for another 10 years? I don't want that, I won't dare anymore. My pride and dignity as a favored daughter of heaven could be trampled by anyone. I was utterly powerless to resist, only able to swallow my bloody tears and endure silently. A red Lamborghini stopped outside. Marcus, wearing sunglasses, was full of impatience. I timidly opened the car door. "Sit in the back, you're dirty." My hand paused, then obediently opened the rear door and got in. Marcus smiled satisfactorily. "It seems these 4 years have taught you obedience." Upon arriving at the Fu residence, he told me to roll out. I was stunned, opened the door, curled into a ball, and rolled down. Inside, how many times had they made me roll? I had to comply every time. Not doing so meant no food, not doing so meant beatings. Rolling like a dog, just to get a full meal. When I rolled out of the car, Marcus was stunned, then full of disgust, instructing the butler to wash the car inside and out before leaving. My memories had blurred considerably, I even didn't know the way. Trembling, I walked to the door. Helena's voice came from inside. "In my opinion, Sylvia should stay in prison for life, she could even harm her own child, utterly worse than pigs and dogs." "Auntie, you can't say that." Perhaps Sister Sylvia was just momentarily confused. "Ethan and I are too close, making Sister Sylvia uncomfortable, I understand." Just as I hesitated whether to enter, a barrage of fierce punches came at me. Ethan hammered me forcefully while shouting, "I hate you. I hate you. If not for you, the kids wouldn't call me retarded, you've ruined me, I hate you." It was my son, Ethan. He had grown taller but thinner. I opened my arms to hug him, but Helena rushed out, blocked him, and kicked me. I had no strength and was kicked over. With red eyes, she said, "Stay away from my good grandson." "Who allowed you here?" Weren't you told to shower first? Haven't you learned enough? Marcus's superior figure appeared. No. I don't want punishment, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I quickly crawled up and knelt. I got lost, I'm sorry, I won't dare next time, please don't send me back in, I don't want. Marcus bent down, tightly pinching my chin, revealing a cruel smile. Very good, this is how you should be. You're no longer the most famous pediatrician in Nanching 4 years ago, now you're just a dog the Fu family doesn't want. Put away those filthy little thoughts of yours, or else you know the consequences. I knelt on the ground, kowtowing repeatedly until blood flowed down my face into my mouth. Marcus's face turned ugly, retracting his smile. Enough. There's a limit to pretending to be pitiful, don't overdo it. Vivian stepped forward to support me, her eyes worried. Sister-in-law, are you okay? Marcus is still angry, just obediently admit your mistake, and we'll let bygones be bygones. It's good that you're back. I said nothing. Helena's anger flared, she clenched her fist to hit me but was blocked by Vivian. Auntie, sister-in-law knows she was wrong, don't hit her. I see she doesn't know she's wrong at all. She's not mute, yet she doesn't even say sorry. Ethan, don't blame your mom, come over and say hello, Vivian said to Ethan. Ethan spat a wad of saliva on my face and ran away quickly. Sister-in-law, don't be angry, Ethan has been spoiled by me these years, his temper has become more willful, teach him well now that you're back. Humph, impossible. Marcus spoke. Sylvia, I order you not to approach Ethan. If nothing's wrong, don't bother us. I remained silent. Vivian curled her lips, intimately linking arms with Marcus, and went in with him. Bother him? Absolutely not. I dared not have any entanglement with him anymore. They looked more like a family of 3, how dare I insert myself? The butler, feeling pity, helped me up. He took me to the nanny's room, saying this was where I would live next. He also prepared clean clothes for me. I sat on the bed, looking at the warm egg noodles on the table, and couldn't help but cry. How long had it been? How long since I was treated as a human rather than a beast? When we overcame numerous obstacles to marry, Marcus had said he would protect me for life and not let anyone hurt me. But now, the one who hurt me the deepest was him. Marcus and I were university classmates. At that time, I was the top student in the pediatric department at the medical university, winning scholarships every year. In my eyes, Marcus was just a wealthy playboy. Logically, our paths would never cross. But on that rainy night, Marcus was speeding, skidded, and crashed into a barrier. His head was covered in blood, and he soon passed out. I knew him, although I didn't want trouble, I gritted my teeth and saved him. I struggled to drag him out, administered first aid, and called 120. Fortunately, my timely intervention meant Marcus only had simple rib fractures. But from then on, he stuck to me like glue, surrounding me every day. I hated the smell of smoke on him, so he quit his years-long smoking addiction for me. The cosmetics, necklaces, and designer bags he gave me were all thrown to friends. Whenever he appeared before me, I never gave him a good face. Friends said he could never melt the ice queen heart of the university top student. But when I was bullied at my part-time job, he blocked a beer bottle for me and fought desperately with the other party, just for an apology. When my internship opportunity was snatched by a connected person, he was the first to stand up for me, offending the vice dean. On my birthday, which I had nearly forgotten, he clumsily prepared a large table of dishes, accompanied me to watch the stars, and listened to my wishes. When I first encountered medical disturbance and was slashed, he cried heartbrokenly, his body shaking uncontrollably. He tightly held my hand, snot bubbles on his face. Sylvia, you must be okay, otherwise, I don't want to live. Clearly, he was still bleeding, clearly, he had blocked the most fatal knife for me. Such an arrogant and domineering rich young master retracted his edges and gave me the most sincere and pure love. How could I not be moved? But he still changed. Talking to you, are you mute? After squatting for 4 years, you can't even speak, look at your unlucky dead appearance, you're not worthy to be the Fu family's daughter-in-law. Sign it and get out quickly. I came back to my senses. Helena's sarcastic appearance emerged. She handed me 2 divorce agreements. Seeing my hesitation, she impatiently said, I knew you wouldn't sign so easily. She threw a card at me, smiling contemptuously. There's 1 million in here, I'll treat it as charity to a beggar. Is this Marcus's intention? I subconsciously murmured. Helena's face changed drastically, she stood up and slapped me twice. You dare mention Marcus? I never liked you. It was Marcus who insisted on marrying you, threatening to cut ties with the Fu family otherwise. But I didn't expect you to be so vicious, harming even your own son, causing my good grandson's intelligence issues. You're not worthy to appear in the Fu family, get as far away as possible. If you don't sign today, I'll have someone break your hands, you'll sign whether you want to or not. I grabbed the pen, quickly signed my name, and bent down to pick up the card on the ground. She thought I didn't want a divorce and wanted to cling to the Fu family. I couldn't wait to leave here. I never wanted any relation with Marcus again. For the rest of my life, I just wanted the most peaceful days. Helena nodded satisfactorily, stuffed one of the divorce agreements to me, indicating I could scram. Before leaving, I happened to see Vivian intimately holding Ethan, playing in the garden. I couldn't help approaching, wanting to see my son one last time. When Ethan saw me coming, his brows furrowed, his eyes full of vigilance and disgust. Stay away from me, dirty woman. My heart felt pierced by thousands of needles. The son I had cherished in my heart since childhood now treated me as an enemy. Vivian indulgently touched Ethan's head. Be good, Ethan, this is still your mother. How did Auntie teach you? Be polite. The disgust in Ethan's eyes deepened, he tightly hugged Vivian. Vivian, Mom is my real mom, I don't know her at all. Mom, make her leave, I don't want to see her, I'm going to vomit the breakfast I ate. Vivian smiled helplessly, looking at me. Sorry, sister, Ethan doesn't like you. Please leave. Her gaze fell on the agreement in my hand, joy nearly overflowing from her eyes. Yet she pretended to look very regretful. What a pity, sister, your 8-year marriage with Marcus is destroyed just like that. It's also your fault, sister, you don't have the fortune to be the mistress of the Fu family. Her words were soft but barbed. Previously, I didn't know she and Marcus grew up together and were good friends. Why always target me? Now I understood, because she hated me for taking the position that originally belonged to her. She loved Marcus madly. So she would frame me at all costs, even sacrificing her own innocence. Such a terrifying woman, I just wanted to stay away. I quickened my pace. Just a little more, and I could leave here. But I bumped head-on into Marcus. He disgustedly patted his sleeve. I tried to minimize my presence and pass by him. Wait. I stopped. Where are you going? Without my permission, you dare go out and embarrass yourself? He raised his hand. I reflexively covered my head and knelt with a thud. Please don't hit me, I won't dare anymore, won't dare. Marcus was stunned, then looked at me angrily. What are you pretending to be pitiful for? Do you think this will make me soften and let you go? I haven't settled those disgusting things you did yet. Stand up. I abruptly stood, head down, not daring to look at him. What's that in your hand? Marcus interrupted me. I didn't answer. I'm asking you. The sharp voice reminded me of prison life again. Dizziness and suffocation surged like tides. I clutched my chest, tremblingly handed over the agreement. After looking, Marcus's face changed drastically. You stupid woman actually wants to divorce me? He choked my neck, releasing when I could barely breathe. I coughed violently, oxygen deprived to the point my face felt about to explode. Butler, lock madam in the room, without my permission, she's not allowed out. The butler looked at me awkwardly, unsure what to do. You don't want to work anymore? Marcus squinted, his eyes revealing danger. The butler lowered his head. Madam, please come with me. The gate was clearly right in front. I was so close to leaving. I was locked in the nanny's room. Every day, the butler would bring food. Marcus opened the door and came in. He was tall, in a tailored suit, looking noble and aloof. He walked toward me. I retreated repeatedly. Until there was no retreat, he pinned me against the wall, unable to move. His gentle breath brushed my cheek. I only felt a chill. I lowered my head. He gripped my chin, making me look at him. "Sylvia, you're really a cheap slut. Took the money and want to run? Not that easy. Our 8 years of relationship is worth only 1 million? That's too cheap." He pinched hard. Intense pain assaulted me. I bit my lower lip tightly, enduring without crying out. Staring into his eyes, I slowly said, "Isn't divorce what you wanted?" A trace of confusion flashed in Marcus's eyes, but soon replaced by anger. He hugged my waist, whispering in my ear, "I can't divorce in this lifetime. I want to hate you forever, entangle you forever, make you pay for what you've done." The devil's whisper easily crushed my long-built defenses. I frantically beat his chest. "Why treat me like this? You used to be so gentle. Where did the old Marcus go? He wouldn't suspect me without reason, wouldn't hurt me like this. Let me go." "Heh." Marcus sneered. He roughly threw me on the bed. Carelessly pressed on me. His unique dominant scent assaulted me. "Clearly, you changed first. I saw Alan kiss you with my own eyes. You didn't dodge, your face red like a flower." "What? You were also expecting him to kiss you? Did I not satisfy you well? Making you so eager to throw yourself at others?" Marcus gripped the back of my head, dominantly covering my lips. This kiss was full of aggression. I had nowhere to hide. Alan? Memories flashed in my mind. He was a colleague in our department. Once, he suddenly asked me out, pulled out flowers to confess. At that time, many in the department didn't know I was married. I hadn't deliberately mentioned it. Before I could refuse, Alan suddenly kissed my cheek and ran. I was at a loss. My face was red only because I had just finished a several-hour surgery. Some hypoxia. This scene was seen by Marcus? Why didn't he ask me directly, but hid it in his heart for so long, even hating me for it? Vivian even spoke for you, saying it was just a misunderstanding, but under my questioning, she admitted she had long seen you meeting frequently. Marcus licked his lips. Storm-like kisses fell again. I closed my eyes. Sure enough, it was Vivian again. He would rather believe an outsider who sowed discord than me. I bit him hard. He stopped. "What about Ethan's matter?" "Vivian said she saw me poisoning. Whatever she says, you believe. You know Ethan was raised by my own hands. I couldn't do such a vicious thing." Marcus smiled playfully. "Whether it was you or not, does it matter? I hate your betrayal, sending you in for a few years in prison, so what? Just to teach you a lesson." In an instant, I fell into the abyss. Marcus's handsome face now resembled an evil ghost. Tyranny gnawed at my remaining soul. With all my strength, I slapped him. My heart had plummeted to the bottom. "You knew the poison wasn't from me, yet treated me like this? You madman, I hate you." How many times, after countless despairs in prison, I lived on the beautiful memories with Marcus in my heart. I didn't do it, Marcus. Time after time, I woke from nightmares, praying to heaven that the man I loved most would believe me. In the end, it was all a scam. He just wanted to punish me. For such a simple, foolish reason. I can be even crazier. Marcus tore my clothes, controlled my body, wantonly venting his anger and desires. My struggles and cries, he ignored. After a long time, my voice was already hoarse. Looking at my battered body, I closed my eyes, praying it was all just a nightmare. Marcus sobered up. A trace of guilt flashed in his eyes. His fingertips trembled slightly, gently stroking the dense scars on my back. "The wounds on your body, what's going on? Did someone bully you? I clearly instructed them to take good care of you." I laughed. Take good care? Isn't this ugly appearance what you wanted to see? Wasn't it you who sent me in, ruined everything of mine, let the world know I'm a sinner? The one who bullied me the hardest, besides you, who else? His expression showed panic. I was angry and lost my head then, sending you in to learn rules, so you'd understand obedience, cherish our relationship, right? I no longer listened to his sophistry, turned my head, and cried softly. Only then did Marcus discover that my entire body had no intact flesh. On my collarbone, thighs, words like beast and slut were carved with knives. Marcus's tone became choked. Wait for me, I'll definitely find out who did this and get justice for you. He hurriedly got up, dressed, stumbled off the bed, and fled in panic. Justice? What justice? How ridiculous. My hollow eyes had lost all hope. Slowly dressed. Marcus didn't close the door. Perfect, I escaped. I took that 1 million, I needed money now. The butler didn't stop me, just pretended not to see me. I smiled slightly at him and left the Fu residence without looking back. I rented a small apartment and began living peacefully on my own. I had no social interactions. Every day, I ate only a little bread to sustain energy. After eating, I curled up in bed, had nightmares. Woke startled, slept again, startled awake again. I couldn't face sunlight. Upon touching it, I often fantasized my body slowly rotting. Every past day with sunrise was evidence of my drudgery. I called the butler once from a public phone. I thanked him. He anxiously said Marcus was nearly mad searching for me. He angrily had people severely beat all who bullied me in prison. Some were even crippled below the waist. Hanging up, I had no reaction. He did this not for me, but to compensate his inner guilt, to feel better. Marcus was the weakest and most selfish person. Until somatic symptoms appeared, I started feeling dizzy, nauseous. Vomited upon eating. A bad premonition arose. I hurried to the hospital. Fortunately, not pregnant. Just diagnosed with depression. Severe depression. Fascinated by the diagnosis sheet, walking to the hospital gate, I bumped into someone. Sorry, not yet finished. A familiar face appeared before me. It was Marcus. I subconsciously wanted to flee. He reacted quickly, grabbing my hand. Ethan is sick, do you want to see him? Hearing Ethan's name, I hesitated. Followed him to the ward. Ethan was in ICU, in bad condition. Vivian sat beside Helena, patting her back, softly comforting. Seeing me and Marcus appear together, she frowned. Then showed a brilliant smile. Hello, Sister Sylvia. Helena, seeing me, immediately shouted for me to scram. Auntie, Sister Sylvia as mother should come see, don't get angry, it's not worth harming your health. Then, the doctor appeared. He was serious. The patient has a large brain tumor, causing severe hemorrhage, currently still in coma. We also found residual chronic poison in the body. Before the doctor finished, Vivian covered her mouth, exclaiming, "Why is Ethan poisoned again? Hasn't he been fine these 4 years?" Then she looked at me. Sister Sylvia, as soon as you return, Ethan has an incident, could it be you? She looked incredulous. Now, everyone knew I was the prime suspect. You slut. Why? Helena stood, raised her hand to hit me. Marcus blocked me, stopping his parent. Mom, don't rush, listen to the doctor first. The doctor wiped sweat, continued, the patient's condition is very urgent, tonight is critical, whether he survives depends on today. Helena's eyes reddened upon hearing, she grabbed the doctor's hand. Doctor, you must save my good grandson, please. The doctor nodded and ran into the ward. Helena cast hateful glances at me. What did my good grandson do to you? Why harm him again? He's your own flesh and blood, is your heart made of stone? You actually want to kill him. If you think the money I gave is little, say so, why harm my good grandson? She got more agitated, breathing rapidly. Marcus quickly supported her to sit. Mom, it probably wasn't Sylvia. Since her return, I've had people monitoring her. She had no chance to poison. The one harming Ethan should be someone else. Then Marcus's gaze swept to Vivian. If not her, who else? Helena said hatefully. Marcus comforted her. Mom, go rest first. Your son will definitely investigate clearly. Helena refused. She wanted to stay. Marcus couldn't persuade, had to agree. Vivian and I also stayed. Until 10 p.m., a doctor finally appeared. He looked pale, forehead full of sweat. Helena quickly surrounded him. Doctor, how is my good grandson? The doctor sighed deeply. Surgery is still ongoing, life and death uncertain. Helena's face trembled. Is there no possibility of cure? If that person were here, it could definitely be cured. Who? Helena's eyes filled with hope again. The former top pediatrician at Nanchang Hospital, Sylvia. With her help, the surgery would surely succeed. Unfortunately, I heard she went to prison for some reason. Helena and Marcus both looked at me. Helena grabbed my hand, heartbroken. Sylvia, if it really wasn't you who poisoned, go in and save your son. Marcus stared fixedly at me, word by word. This is your only chance to prove innocence, otherwise, no one will believe you. Vivian echoed, yes, sister, you need to atone for your past. If not for you, Ethan wouldn't have become retarded. The suffering he's endured these 4 years breaks my heart as his aunt, sob. The 3 before me urged me to save Ethan. But every word sounded like a threat. Helplessly, I extended my hand, removed the black gloves. A pair of terrifying hands appeared. Both hands full of pitted scars. Some had scabbed. Some had become indelible marks. These hands, in those 4 years, have been completely ruined. I can't save Ethan because I can no longer hold a scalpel. Helena's face changed greatly, shocked, speechless. Marcus looked at me in shock. He painfully rubbed the scars on my hand. Murmuring, sorry Sylvia, it's my fault, I must make those who hurt you die. His face showed ruthlessness. With a thud, Helena fell straight to the ground, completely fainted. Marcus and Vivian both went to help her. I turned and left. At the moment of turning, I saw Vivian secretly curl her lips. Sure enough, all this was her scheme. If she knew everything she did would ultimately backfire on her, what would her reaction be? That night, Ethan was declared dead despite resuscitation. At the funeral, looking at Ethan's pale face in the coffin, my heart ached too. After all, initially, Marcus and I had picked him up together in the park. Helena cried heartbrokenly, nearly fainting several times. Perhaps to make her feel better, Marcus chose to reveal the truth. Ethan isn't my biological child, Mom, don't be too sad. Your son will definitely let you hold a grandson again. Helena looked confused, clearly not believing this explanation. Marcus slowly explained. 8 years ago, when he and I were about to marry, we found Ethan near death in a nearby park. He was just born, his whole face turning purple. I quickly took first aid measures. Just when I thought he wouldn't wake, a loud cry rang out. He tenaciously survived. We adopted him, and since Helena didn't approve our marriage then, Marcus lied that he was our biological child. With the rice cooked, Helena could only agree to our marriage. After hearing, Helena's expression was complex but no longer as distressed. Vivian standing aside looked surprised, her eyes seeming more resentful. Perhaps realizing the person she designed to eliminate wasn't my biological flesh made her feel deeply frustrated. But what I was about to say would make him utterly despair. I looked at Marcus. This is your child. He was full of confusion. I continued, Ethan is your and Vivian's child. Vivian's eyes widened, clearly not believing my words. 5 years ago, I noticed Ethan looking more like Marcus. I'm a doctor, know some genetics, so I took their hairs for DNA. Results showed they are father and son. Marcus and Vivian's faces changed simultaneously. I was heartbroken then. I thought you cheated, even thought you deliberately took me to pick up this child to legitimately bring your illegitimate son into the Fu family. You used me. Marcus wanted to explain, I interrupted and continued, but I still chose to believe you. By chance, I learned Vivian's blood type, A. You're B blood, Ethan is AB, plus Ethan's brows and eyes resemble Vivian greatly. By woman's intuition, I thought Vivian was Ethan's real mom. Test results proved it true. Vivian panicked, grabbing my sleeve. You say Ethan is my biological son? I don't believe it. Marcus pushed Vivian away, protecting me behind him. He looked at Vivian incredulously. That absurd night, you had my child? Vivian painfully lowered her head, not answering, but the answer was obvious. Clearly, on some night I was away, intentionally or not, Marcus had relations with Vivian. Vivian got pregnant. She thought the child was stillborn and abandoned it. Coincidentally, Marcus and I picked it up. If you don't believe, the test report is at Fu Home, check anytime. Even knowing Ethan was your child, I treated him as my own son, cherished him well. But I didn't expect you, out of jealousy, to deliberately poison him to frame me. Have you thought Ethan might also be a piece of flesh from your body? You killed him with your own hands. Impossible. Impossible. I don't believe. Under my barrage of questions, Vivian finally collapsed. She knelt on the ground, covering her face and crying. Marcus angrily questioned Vivian. Why did you do this? Isn't it for you? With a child you had with someone else, there's a barrier between us. I couldn't tolerate my child dead while Sylvia's child was fine. Her face became crazed, pounding the ground forcefully until blood flowed. What have I done? I poisoned my own child? I don't believe. Ethan, Mom is sorry. Marcus came to me, full of apology. Sorry Sylvia, 8 years ago when we were to marry, you were on a business trip for a month, I missed you too much, got drunk, mistook Vivian for you, had relations, I didn't know she got pregnant, didn't know Ethan was our child. I stepped back a few paces, distancing myself. Why tell me this? I don't care. Marcus panicked. Sylvia, don't be like this, don't look at me with such cold eyes, I'm scared. Heh. I sneered contemptuously. You knew I couldn't harm Ethan, just because you saw another man kiss me, without listening to any explanation, sent me to prison. How vicious your heart is, you know yourself. When I knew you might have cheated, I still chose to believe you, foolishly waiting for your explanation, but how did you repay me? Marcus repeated his old trick, stepping forward to hug me tightly. I looked indifferent, letting him manipulate me as he wished. Anyway, I'm someone with only half a life left, do whatever you want, like last time imprison me? Force me? All fine. Anyway, haven't I always been your plaything? Marcus trembled, murmuring no repeatedly. I'm no longer the original Sylvia, my life was ruined by you. My eyes were like stagnant water. I had accepted reality, whatever he did to me, my heart wouldn't stir the slightest ripple. Marcus dropped to his knees, the always arrogant man knelt. Looking up, gripping my shoulders. His eyes reddened. I was wrong, Sylvia, I was outrageously wrong, sorry. I was blinded by jealousy, made you suffer, these 4 years you were away, I suffered no less than you, I was tormented too, I missed you a lot. Come back, okay? We agreed to be together for life. I didn't respond. As his hands slowly fell. This time, he didn't choose to entangle further. I left. Would never stop again. After all, in this world, there's no regret medicine. Marcus didn't entangle me again. He hired a legal team to overturn my case, wanting to restore my reputation. Also texted me he'd pay for me to go abroad for hand treatment. I refused all. Reputation? Body? I didn't care at all. My only wish now was to stay away from him. Live the most ordinary life. Oh, he also sent Vivian to prison. Just like he sent me in back then, merciless and resolute. But failed. Because Vivian went mad, sent to a mental hospital. Her intelligence like a 3-year-old child. Her hand tightly clutched Ethan's favorite toy before death. Her mouth repeatedly muttered, "Baby, Mom is sorry, Mom didn't mean it." Her shrill cries often echoed through the ward. Perhaps in the 4 years I was away, she treated Ethan with true heart. But ultimately, due to jealousy, did something she'd regret for life. People should be responsible for their actions. I adopted a kitten. A little orange cat picked from the downstairs trash heap. When first brought back, her eyes were timid, skinny to the bones. Just half a year later, she became incredibly round. Couldn't even do simple actions like rolling on the ground. Marcus was almost there every day. His car always parked downstairs. He didn't disturb me, just quietly stayed in the car. As long as I didn't see his face, my mood was good. Slowly, I no longer rejected sunlight. No longer fantasized about rotting in death. I began to like going out, like walking. Just every time I opened the door, I'd receive a bunch of white lilies. Full of apology words. I knew who sent them. I'd take the flowers downstairs, throw them into the trash without hesitation. I'd forever remember his ugliest, most unbearable side. Wouldn't soften for a few nice words, apologies, gifts. Otherwise, all I suffered would be deserved. I began to sleep well. Holding fluffy Mimi, slept soundly and peacefully. Marcus hadn't looked for me for a long time. I was happy. On the day of leaving, I packed all luggage, cleaned the room. I had found new work in another city. Even if I couldn't be a doctor anymore, I could help more people through other ways. Taking Mimi, to realize together. I left Marcus a letter. It said, "May we never meet again in this lifetime. Don't think, don't miss. A dream of millet must wake, flowers and mirror, moon and water, always empty." Marcus's perspective. The day Sylvia left. Nanching had a once-in-a-century light snow. Marcus anticipated inwardly, hadn't seen Sylvia for some days. Maybe she was thinking of him too. Perhaps she'd soften, give him another chance. He secretly vowed in his heart, this time, must not miss each other again. When arriving there, snow slowly fell on his lapel. He looked up. Sylvia's balcony cloves, succulents she raised, all gone. His face changed, he hurriedly ran upstairs. The room door was open. Inside empty. No trace of Sylvia. Only a lone white paper on the table. Marcus picked it up, glanced. His heart suddenly constricted. Throat surged, a mouthful of heart blood spurted out. After a long time, he began to laugh. Laughed madly. Finally cried. Lonely back half kneeling on the ground, sobbing painfully. But all this, Sylvia would never know. Even if she knew, she wouldn't care at all.